Hello everyone, just a quick message to remind you about my Healing Chronic Dizziness course. If you haven't taken the course, it is completely free and I plan to keep it free forever because my mission is to make sure that people with chronic dizziness have access to the treatment tools that I use with my clients so that they can heal themselves from their chronic dizziness. If you'd like to support me and my mission and help me keep all of these resources free forever, please consider joining my paid membership community. In my community, you'll be able to interact directly with me via live Q&As and monthly seminars. It only starts at $9.99 a month. So if that's something that you think might be helpful to you and you'd like to support me in my work, please join the community. Link will be below in the description. And without further ado, please enjoy the video. Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Yonit Arthur. I'm an audiologist and strength coach, and I specialize in vestibular disorders. Welcome to my channel, The Steady Coach, where we talk about all things related to vertigo, dizziness, balance problems, health, and wellness. Today, I'm going to give you 4 different ways that you can reduce your dizziness symptoms right now. Now, just to clarify, I'm talking right now to my folks who have chronic dizziness symptoms. You may or may not have a diagnosis to go along with your symptoms, but these are chronic symptoms, symptoms that are with you day in, day out, or come and go. This is not referring to acute attacks of vertigo and nausea. So if you're having a very acute attack, then these 4 ways of addressing your dizziness may not help you. So number 1 is to reduce your dizziness airtime. Now I know if you have chronic dizziness, it's probably something you think about quite a lot. It may be the very first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning, it may be something you're constantly monitoring throughout the day, and it's something that of course, because the symptoms are so awful, may hold you back from social engagement or other things that you enjoy. But when you realize that fear and stress are the main drivers of your symptoms, it may make sense to try to reduce your brain's activity on the volume dial. Now, I've referred to this in previous videos. Your brain has a volume dial of dizziness that it can turn up and down depending on the circumstances. And there are a few different things that affect the volume dial, but one big one is attention. One of my clients reports that when he's working, he doesn't notice any symptoms at all, but then when he stops working and takes a break, he has symptoms. Another one of my clients has noticed that when she's playing golf, she doesn't notice any symptoms, but then when she starts to try to do something else, she does have symptoms. So what both of these cases illustrate is that when you're not paying as much attention to your dizziness, you're not focusing on it, you're not obsessing about it, you're not analyzing it, your dizziness symptoms tend to get better. And that is because, again, the attention that you pay to something affects how high or low your volume dial is turned. Now, of course, this isn't going to eliminate your symptoms. And again, I know some of these symptoms are so distressing that it's very hard to ignore them. So I'm not saying that you should ignore them. I'm saying that if you can, try to build some even small activities into your daily life that are enjoyable and will take your mind off the dizziness. Spend a little bit less time trying to think about your dizziness. Try to spend a little bit less time analyzing your symptoms. Try to spend a little bit less time on support groups where you're reading stories of other people's dizziness. Instead, focus on things that you have enjoyed in the past or think you would enjoy now. It can be learning a new instrument. It can be listening to soothing music. It can be walking your dog. And again, I know that some of these things may not be possible for you when you have very severe dizziness, but the worst thing you can do for yourself is get stuck and let your world shrink down so that all you do all day long is sit around and think about your dizziness. Now, I know that is a little bit of a lecture-y way of talking about this. So this is by no means the only thing that can help you with your dizziness, but it does make a significant difference if you're willing to try it. The second way that you can reduce your dizziness symptoms right now is through physiological stress reduction. So I've talked about parasympathetic breathing on this channel a lot, but if you haven't seen some of my previous videos, I will link to my parasympathetic breathing video above and below. Now, physiological stress reduction refers to techniques that you can use to change how your nervous system is responding at any particular moment. So in the past, the autonomic nervous system, the automatic nervous system, was thought to be a one-way street. It controls you and you can't control it. But that is absolutely not true. We know that there is a two-way path of communication between your behavior and your nervous system's response. Your nervous system is constantly monitoring what's going on in your environment, and that affects how it responds. So by changing certain things, such as your breathing patterns, you can reduce the stress and fear response or alarm danger response in your brain. Parasympathetic breathing is probably the easiest and most accessible way of doing this, because if you're watching this video, you are definitely breathing. But you can also interpret this to mean any other physical means of allowing yourself to relax. So if you like warm baths, you can do that. If you like listening to soothing music, you can do that. And that also knocks out one on the not paying attention to dizziness part of things. Just remember that fear and stress response that's constantly going on in your body when you're dizzy is the fuel for your dizziness. It's what keeps it going. So by temporarily interrupting that loud alarm, that loud danger alarm, you can reduce your dizziness symptoms immediately. And that's what almost everyone has reported to me when he or she does parasympathetic breathing. And I will provide some more methods to do that in the future. The third way you can reduce your dizziness right now is by tracking it. And I have a track called Somatic Tracking in my Brain Exercises playlist that teaches you how to do this. But essentially, it's a method of actually paying attention to your dizziness, but in a different way from how you're probably used to doing it. So what you have likely been doing this entire time that you're dizzy is fighting it tooth and nail. You say things to yourself like, I hate this, I wish it would go away. You do everything in your power to make it go away. And by the way, that's completely understandable because dizziness sucks. So of course you want it to go away. However, constantly fighting against your dizziness this way also increases the stress chemicals in your body. And what do we know about what stress chemicals do to your dizziness? Yes, they turn the volume dial up. So by temporarily stopping that contribution, those stress chemicals, you can also reduce your dizziness. So the way somatic tracking works is you pay attention, you pick one of the dominant sensations in your body and you pay attention to it. But instead of trying to fight it and make it stop, you just describe it and watch it without judgment. It doesn't matter if it changes, it doesn't matter if it's something that you normally would find unpleasant or uncomfortable. During this somatic tracking exercise, you're just paying attention to it without judging. And again, you can do my guided version if you'd like, and then do it unguided once you understand the method. And again, this is a very powerful way of teaching that brain to separate between the fear that's fueling the dizziness and the dizziness itself. But I also want to emphasize, if you do this technique and you don't find that your symptoms change, it is still valuable in the longer run. By helping unlink this fear and stress response from your dizziness, you are going to teach your brain that the dizziness is no longer something that it needs to constantly turn the volume dial up on. And finally, method number 4 to reduce your dizziness right now is to befriend it. And I know this is the most bizarre thing that I'm going to say in this video, but if you've been with me thus far, it's just a step further from the somatic tracking. So what I find to be the most helpful for my clients isn't merely tracking their symptoms, but starting to feel a little bit more compassionately toward their symptoms, which again, I know is very strange, especially if you've never tried somatic tracking before and you're like, what in the heck is this lady saying? The dizziness is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, but bear with me. Again, we know that fear and stress response is the main fuel behind your dizziness continuing the way that it is. So we want to reduce some of that fear and stress response, which somatic tracking does. But the other thing that I've noticed holds true for most of my clients is they tend to have a lot of animosity towards themselves. They're angry with their bodies for betraying them. They feel a lot of hostility toward the parts of their body that have been producing this dizziness. And again, this is understandable when dizziness is so scary. But that animosity and those fearful, scared, angry feelings that you have towards your body are further setting off those alarm bells and turning the dizziness volume dial up. So in order to turn it back down, it can be super helpful to understand that your body is not trying to betray you or act like a hostile towards you. It's trying to tell you something. What is your dizziness trying to tell you? I've said in previous videos that dizziness is your brain's way of saying stop. So think about this. What is your dizziness trying to get you to stop doing? Sometimes, unfortunately, dizziness makes you stop doing the things that you enjoy. And those are the unfortunate casualties. But many times the dizziness is also trying to stop you from doing things that are extremely stressful to you. So find out what those things are. And here we go even further into the land of bizarre, but I have had clients very successfully actually even have dialogues with their dizziness symptoms and flat out ask them, why are you here? Please tell me why you're here. And the most important thing about doing this, if you're going to try this, is to try to put that fear and animosity and hatred and all the terrible experiences with your dizziness that you've had thus far aside so that you can act in a non-judgmental and ask in a very curious way, dizziness, why are you here and what are you trying to tell me? And very frequently that answer is very enlightening and helps you find the right path for healing moving forward. So all 4 of these methods are a way to help you stop feeling dizzy right now. And for many people, this is all it takes to get better. In fact, I'd say about 30% of people get better with just these types of techniques without any further work. But for the rest of you, you're going to need to do more work than this. It's going to involve more than just stress reduction. It's going to involve looking inside and understanding the internal stressors that are contributing to your situation and coming to terms with some of those things. And for some of you also, it can be really helpful to develop some good ways of exposing yourself to the triggers that produce such a fear response in you right now. And I've talked about this in some other videos that I will link to below. I hope this was a helpful video for you. Please try out these techniques and let me know how they go for you. I especially like the physiological stress reduction, but that's just me. So let me know what works best for you. I look forward to hearing your questions and comments. As always, thank you so very much for tuning in, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.